Well then, all right, it's an exciting week or so when it comes to space weather. There's lots of stuff happening there. Lots of prominences, coronal mass ejections, solar flare activity, a ridiculous number of sunspots, 2 coronal mass ejections headed Earth's way, and a coronal hole high-speed stream also. How you like them apples? We'll tell you all about it here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. This imagery depicts ionized helium from SDO. That is yesterday plus today. And yeah, a bunch of stuff going on here. Filamentary ejections, coronal mass ejections, a coronal hole high-speed stream. Sunspot number reaches 222 sunspots. It's exciting times. Now, we did pause this one yesterday around 1300 Universal Time, which was around when this M8 class flare happened. And there was a coronal mass ejection. So 2 CMEs headed their way to Earth, one expected to arrive on the 23rd of September, one expected to arrive on the 24th of September, and also a coronal hole high-speed stream expected to be in there. So plenty of stuff going on. Again, it's exciting times for space weather. And by the way, if you enjoy the content, make sure you press the like button. If you're new to the channel, do yourself a favor and press the subscribe button. Congratulations on realizing this channel exists. It's only the most comprehensive daily space weather and most detailed solar imagery you'll find in the known universe. If you haven't seen the shorts, we put out some totally berserk shorts that barely anybody saw. I guess they weren't recommended yesterday on YouTube for whatever reason, despite being monetized. So yeah, press like, press subscribe, leave a comment. And if you do visit the shorts, check out the description in the shorts. It always contains the full video from which they were typically excerpted. Also, visit us on social media. Hit up our own website, smashomash.com. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. We launched it back in February of 2019. We've created a massive web ring. There's a forum. There's merch. There is our mission statement at smashomash.com/forum/mission. There's the Smash team, additional subscription services, links to social media. The Discord channel has a permanent invite link right there, etc. Today's featured product is from the Hemp Lucid shop, at least. It is one of our paid affiliate /sponsors. Save $15 on stress stacks, sleep stacks, immune stacks, or even more than that on the full stack, the package of 3 there. Save a bunch of money there. That sale's still going on. If you haven't tried the sleep, stress, or immune stack capsules, check those out. Links below the video to the Hemp Lucid shop to save some dough on your Hemp Lucid purchases. There are the most popular items from Hemp Lucid. You can also find things like body balms, lip balms, and even CBD for your pets. Shop by solution via our link. And again, save a bunch of dough there on those stacks. The featured product from our Amazon storefront today is the shirt that I'm currently wearing. Yeah, I'm a collector of Hawaiian shirts. Today I've got on the pink flamingo shirt. And if you like that design, you can pick up your own at amazon.com/shop/smashomash. That storefront linked below the video as well. Thanks to everybody who's picked up products from our Hemp Lucid and our Amazon shop. The Amazon shop, this is the Spaceware collection. You can also find things like eclipse glasses on there. You can find our coffee selections, also supplements, save dough on bulk spices, and so on over at amazon.com/shop/smashomash. And today's featured product from the merch shop is the Croissant Earth Society. If you haven't joined the Croissant Earth Society, why not pick up some merch and tell your friends and foes to stop believing NASA's lies, pardon the sarcasm. The good news is, folks, that the planet Nibiru is not as large as Earth. And when it does strike Earth, it's going to go right through that hole. You have a hole in the croissant. Nibiru is going to pass right through it. It's going to be harmless. It might create some high tides and stuff. But don't worry, folks, Nibiru, it's not a big deal or a thing that exists. So anyway, yeah, stop believing NASA's lies. Earth is croissant-shaped. What are you, some kind of a maniac who believes... What are you talking about? I mean, didn't you know that NASA was funded by actual Nazis. I mean, oh, geez, what kind of a fantasy land are you living in? Join the Croissant Earth Society. Realize that Earth is not an oblate sphere or shaped like a pizza. It is shaped like the French breakfast pastry. When will you stop believing NASA's lies? And let's switch gears here and take a look at the 200-plus sunspots currently on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. If you thought the sun was shutting down, think again. That is what over 200 sunspots looks like. And, it's, what can I say? The likelihood of large solar flares is extremely high. And here's the colorized magnetogram. These SDO browse images are depicting yesterday plus today, September 21st and September 22nd to date. Rapid growth continues up here in the northwest. A couple large solar flare players are there that we will cover. First, let's take a look at what's going on planet Croissant Earth. Here's the volcano rundown. It includes Abico, which is now exploding, producing a 10,000-foot ash plume. Flight level 100 over Abico on Paramushir Island. That's an uptick at Abico. Nishino-shima also producing some eruptive activity there, venting gas and steam from the summit crater. Semaru, not not effusing lava, but exploding as well, producing a 15,000-foot ash plume over East Java. That's a flight level 150. Dacono exploding, flight level 070 over Halmahera. 7,000-foot ash plume, 20,000-foot ash plume over central Mexico from Popocatépetl. Sanchaguito, volcanic ash not detected there. Still could be erupting. Don't assume it's not and decide to pole vault the caldera. If you're going on a volcanic vacation, leave your vault pole at home. Fuego is not observed either. It could be cloudy. It could be because it's not erupting. Guatemala, not sure if we're seeing eruptions there or not. Nevado del Ruiz, however, in Colombia, going farther south, is exploding, producing a 24,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. It's a flight level 240. Flight level 200 over Sangay in Ecuador. Flight level 140 over Revenador as it explodes. And Sabancaya, the world's largest ash producer there, producing a 27,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Flight level 270 over Peru. Next, earthquakes. And earthquake activity is moderate for the past 24 hours. There are the past 90 days, and there was a 6.1 magnitude quake here north of Vanuatu. Yeah, Vanuatu. That quake was at depth, nearly 200 kilometers estimated depth, so it did not produce a tsunami. That occurred actually late last night. We'll cover it again here when we go up the list, citing quakes of a 5 or greater magnitude. The list starts out with a 5.7 north of New Zealand there in the Kermadec Trench. That 5.7 was at 15:20 Universal Time yesterday afternoon. Then at 21:11, Vanuatu saw a 6.1. Estimated depth was 188.4 kilometers. That is a deep quake. Then, only 11 minutes later, a 5.7 hits the Izu Islands south of Japan. That 5.7 at 21:22 Universal Time. And continuing up the list here, Papua New Guinea had a 5.0 at 1:11 Universal Time. So most of the activity there, once again, on the Western Pacific. And remember, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. The last 5.0 or greater to talk about would be this 5.0 south of Sandpoint, Alaska. That 5.0 was at 9:04 Universal Time this morning, and it's time to return to space. Here's the SDO 171 angstroms wavelength. And yeah, lots of stuff going on here. We're going to do a cosmic ray report today as well. And before we do anything like that, let's go to some stats. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux now at 168 solar flux units, moving just about to the 81-day moving average. So there's the 1-year graph of the radial flux depicted by the black line. 168 is the new radial flux number. Sunspot number way up here now at 222. So, yeah. And we're not even at solar maximum yet. So, do the math, folks. Do the math. Now, next, Looking at the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard here, and we've got multiple events, a coronal hole high-speed stream and 2 CME impacts. So we're expecting geomagnetic unrest and geomagnetic storm conditions starting tonight and continuing through the weekend. So Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, we could see activity all 3 nights. The best chances would be on Saturday night, September 23rd and the 24th, expecting significant geomagnetic storm activity. So that's NOAA's forecast. And here's NOAA's Enlil spiral. The top depicts density, the bottom depicts velocity. So coronal hole high-speed stream expected really at any moment here. I think it's running late. And then 2 CME impacts. One early in the day on the 23rd, and another early in the day on the 24th. We'll also show NASA's Enlil spiral. And it looks like NASA only has one of those modeled so far. So, okay, interesting. Keep in mind, folks, NASA is less concerned about false positives than NOAA. So you may want to take heed on NOAA's forecast there. The likelihood of seeing the northern lights on Saturday night is kind of high. Yes! How you like them apples? Pretty sweet, right? Now let's show some of the events that spawned the latest CME incoming. So here is our Twitch feed from yesterday, and this was right about when we were premiering our video. This M8.7 class solar flare right from this active region did blast off some material, or some material blasted off the solar flare, I should say. So a bunch of stuff happening there. We're going to try to tie this together a little bit later in the video when we do our coronal mass ejections section. Make sure you stay tuned for that. And yeah, so that sunspot there has been the source of the majority of the activity, like flaring. And of course, multiple filamentary ejections happening as well. So check it out later in the day yesterday. A series of CMEs and massive prominences started to make their way, especially around the northern limb. Also down there in the southwest, the Eugene Bagashov prominence is hanging out down there. Exciting stuff for solar activity. And again, folks, we aren't even at solar maximum yet. So imagine what it's going to be like when we are at solar maximum. It's going to be freaking sweet. Anyway, let's get to some more stats here. Next on the list is Earth's magnetic moment from space. So here are the past 4 hours of magnetohydrodynamic pressure. We are in a geomagnetically calm condition, which is not expected to continue. So here you can see most of the magnetohydrodynamic pressure is appearing on the dark side of the planet, the magnetotail portion, as the system tries to reach static equilibrium following fairly weak solar wind inputs. Since that refreshed, we'll let that play all the way through. So there you go. There's Croissant Earth for you. Croissant Earth, folks. We also like to show Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the past 4 hours. Another indication that doomsday is not here, by the way. You see any quadrupoles there? What? No, of course not. Of course not, because the current pole shift is not even classifiable as a magnetic excursion. Anyway, that's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Things are geomagnetically calm. Don't expect that to continue. KP index currently at 2.33, folks. The KP index, if you're new to the channel, is an average of global geomagnetism. And here comes the solar wind data. At the moment, we've got the Discover spacecraft showing us 5 protons per cubic centimeter for the solar wind density, solar wind velocity here, just over 400 kilometers per second. That is an unremarkable past 24 hours for solar wind. GOES magnetometers here showing kind of low readings, kind of low highs, and kind of high lows there. So a tighter range for the past 24 hours. And check it out, folks, missing data This is when Nibiru passed in between Earth and the Sun. Pardon my sarcasm. I could make fun of Nibiru all day, the non-existent planet that people are very spooked of. That is not flying through the solar system. Anyway, those are the GOES magnetometers. Expect some rapid variations happening in those in the coming days, with the geomagnetic storm and unrest conditions coming over the weekend. Next, let's take a look at the sector boundary crossing that we are forecasting Earth to be crossing soon. And it looks like Earth is now indeed in a North Pole current sheet, or very soon to be in a North Pole current sheet. So there's the latest image. Actually, this is showing Earth still in a South Pole current sheet, depicted here in red. Keep in mind this data is already an hour and a half old when we made the video. Earth could already be in a North Pole current sheet. Sector boundary crossing is imminent if it hasn't already occurred. So that's what's going on. No new sunspots have risen in the past 24 hours on the eastern limb. And next is our line of sight field plot. So there's the photosphere's magnetism in grayscale, the solar B field in blue. That's the field that goes through the magnet, this magnet being the sun. And then you've got the north and south polar fields depicted. And let's move to coronal holes. Super important to the solar sunspot cycle, as the coronal holes show us the magnetic field reversal process. There it is. We show it daily on the channel. And next we'll go to coronal holes in 211 angstroms. So here's the SDO imagery. And the coronal hole high-speed stream that we're expecting is from this coronal hole. It's right about where you expect it to be when they typically provide the Earth with some increased solar wind parameters. So exciting times. And let's move to sunspots. I guess those are an important feature of the solar cycle, right? Well, check it out. Sunspot number is now at 222. So there you go. There's the graph. 222 sunspots. We're still not at solar maximum. 222. That is from the Royal Observatory of Belgium. And here is that is our flare monitor and our flare probability scoreboard, rather, and our flare, well, you get the idea. Anyway, if we stop this, you can see the likely spots for large flares are indeed sunspot 3443 up here in the northwest. Also 3435 right in the central portion of the solar disk there, right into the Earth strike zone there. So if we see more CME activity from that, it's likely to be earthly directed. And then last but not least, you've got 3442 also showing complex magnetic fields there. Multiple sunspot groups capable of producing large solar flares. Let's take a look from SDO's perspective. Look at the rapid growth of this sunspot up here. That is impressive. And here is the SDO 171 angstroms plus magnetogram. Today there are issues with the HelioViewer feed, and so we're actually going to show this one. We usually don't show it on the channel because that's not available on the HelioViewer feed in the first place. So this is one of those many times when missing data helps. It gives us the opportunity to show you some stuff that we wouldn't normally show. So that's the colorized magnetogram and 171 angstroms together. It'll show you the polarity of the umbral fields as well as the lower chromosphere. Just fantastic. And let's move to energetic particles and solar flares. So despite all of the flaring activity happening and CMEs, no spikes in the proton flux there. So those are going to become more likely here when the coronal hole high-speed stream shows up, believe it or not. So look for an uptick in the proton flux coming in the next couple of days, especially if we continue to see large flares. So there's going to be a strong magnetic channel between the Earth and Sun when we see the coronal hole high-speed stream arriving. So look for that coming. Expect spikes in the proton flux. There's a forecast for you. And here is the GOES X-ray flux. Of course, the largest flare of the past 24 was this one that happened while we were premiering yesterday's video. It was an 8.7, an M8.7. Since then, only one M-class event. It was of longer duration, an M1.2. And let's take a look at flares from SDO while we're at it. So here is, this is 131 angstroms. We'll slow that down a little bit there to allow the spectacular imagery to sink in. So here comes the largest flare of the past 24. That was that M7.2 or 8 point, whatever it was. I don't know, M8 or something. Never memorize something you can look up, folks. So that's the 131 angstroms. We've also got the 94 angstroms. These are depicting the same period of time all day on the 21st and the 22nd to date. September 21st and September 22nd to date. DAG. And if you're wondering what DAG is the unprocessed shearing of a sheep. You know, when you cut the like wool off of the sheep. Yeah, that is what DAG is. DAG is that unprocessed stuff. DAG. Next, your cosmic ray update. So we did have a 4-bush decrease when we saw that strong geomagnetic storm condition back on on the 18th. You see that sudden decrease in cosmic ray flux there at the Apatity neutron monitor. That right there, folks, is what we call a 4-bush decrease. The solar plasma, the sudden input from the solar plasma, and the magnetic fields associated with it cause a sudden decrease of cosmic ray flux. It acts like a shield, as those particles want to orbit the magnetic field lines of the solar plasma instead of making it down to Earth. So that's what we call a 4-bush decrease. And by the way, we're seeing the lowest levels of cosmic ray flux since 2004. We'll show you some more data on that. You can see that big decrease at the Barentsburg neutron monitor as well. Next, we'll go farther south to Athens. Once again, the 4-bush decrease shown there. There it is. About midday on the 18th there, the Athens neutron monitor dropped off a cliff for cosmic ray flux. My mistake. Going even farther south to Mexico City, once again, 4-bush decrease, not as pronounced as those other monitors, but still present and still in a lower regime than going in. And you can expect this to continue to decrease. Why? Because we aren't at solar maximum yet. That's why. We just aren't at solar maximum. So there's Mexico City. We'll also show Oulu, Finland. And here you can see that, indeed, the lowest levels of cosmic rays since about 2004. So there were a lot of people freaking out. Oh my God, the cosmic ray flux is going to kill us all. It's at the highest levels ever measured. That happened back around 2009 and 2010, folks. It's not happening now. Again, let me reiterate. Cosmic ray flux is at the lowest level since approximately 2004. So there's the Oulu neutron monitor. You can see the pronounced 4-bush decrease right there. Once again, late in the day on the 18th there. Also DOMB Antarctica showing that 4-bush decrease, and also DOMC. So a great example there of a 4-bush decrease. And let's talk about CMEs. Yeah, CMEs. And before we do that, oh wait, I'm missing stuff. Our star chart. That's part of space weather. This is what's going on overhead over Lehigh Valley. As Jupiter sets in the west, it is chased by Mercury and Venus and the Sun is being chased by Mars. That's what's going on overhead here in the Lehigh Valley from skyandtelescope.org's star chart. Here is theplanetstoday.com's celestial bodies chart for the solar system. This is our 1 week solar system forecast. Here's where things are today. There's where things will be in a week on the 29th. It looks like full moon is on the 29th or 30th. Anyway, that's where things will be on the 29th. And don't forget, we are only less than 1 day here from the equinox, so we're almost in fall territory. Good news for all of you Southern Hemisphere viewers, you've nearly survived another winter. For you Northern Hemisphere viewers, you've nearly survived another summer. So congratulations on that. The equinox coming early tomorrow morning at 2:50 a.m. Universal Time, 2:50 Eastern Time. 2:50 a.m. and 1 second is when the Earth's equator will cross the solar equator. Today's astronomy photo of the day. That's a pretty weird one, right? Check it out. Yeah, that is a solar thermal power generator there in China, and this is what it sees at nighttime if you take time-lapse imagery of it. A bunch of stars making a bunch of streaks. That's the astronomy photo of the day. Copyright Jeff Dye. apod.nasa.gov if you want to check it out yourself, and here comes some CMEs. So around midday yesterday is when we saw the first one that will impact Earth. There may be another one today, so there could be another strike on the 25th of September. We'll cover that here momentarily. These are yesterday's CMEs. That's 102 frames from yesterday. Next, we'll show today's. And I think there is another CME headed toward Earth. So another one expected here to arrive sometime late in the day on the 25th. That would make 3. And it's this one that looks like it's coming out of the northeast, kind of. That one is, once again, another earthly directed component there, and we'll show you some more imagery of it here. Here's Soho Lasco C2 and C3. There you can see CMEs from yesterday. One of those includes an Earth-directed component. And then from this morning, let's see if we can capture that one. That one out of the northeast. Oh, multiple events there. Oh, this is actually late in the day last night. Here we've got a little extra data here. We paused this at 1400. We're going to bring this back and let these play through. So we've got time and date stamps there for you. That is 90 frames starting out yesterday around noontime. I'm going to have to revise a little bit. Early in the day on the 25th, a third coronal mass ejection impact is likely. Early in the day on the 25th. That's universal time, by the way. So there are the frames we've got. We'll also show stereo A here. We'd like to show this. This is the Where is Stereo Today page, which shows the locations of not only stereo A, but also stereo B and the solar orbiter, which is on the far side of the sun right now. Parker Solar Probe, Bepi Colombo. So yeah, that's where things are. And we've paused this one at 15:38 Universal Time yesterday. So that's that one CME that's headed this way, and then there's some missing data there. And then some aftermath. We'll let those play through. So raw coronagraph on the left, stereo A difference imagery on the right. I'd say it's fairly exciting times for space weather. What would you say? Let us know in the comments what you think. All right, so here we've got some custom coronagraphs, and this one, like I said earlier, there's some data that doesn't appear on the HelioViewer feed right now, so we don't have what we would normally show with our composite coronagraphs. However, we're going to be showing imagery from the Proba 2. So the Proba 2 does have a 174 angstroms wavelength, and the Proba 2 swap instrument is what we're showing next. So here it is. That's the swap instrument in the center there. Soho Lasco C3 in blue, C2 in red. So that should depict two CMEs that have an earthly directed component. I know there are enough events going on that it can be a little bit confusing. Let's zoom in a little bit closer here. So at the beginning of the video, you're going to see some activity right in here. That's one of the Earth-directed CMEs. That one's headed almost directly toward Earth, only off a little bit to the east and south. And then later in the evening, another event from somewhere in the east central solar disk. So if we get a little bit closer in, that might help. And that might just muddy the waters further. I don't know. But lots of activity going on, and don't expect it to stop anytime soon. And here we'll show the 174 angstroms wavelength from the swap by itself. So yeah, there you go. There's an instrument we may have never featured before on the channel, or maybe only once or twice. The Proba 2 swap instrument. Good times. It's always nice to have additional data sources, right? And let's talk filaments. Yeah, filaments. So, oh man, check it out. We got some major filaments, some major filaments. And so here's one of the ones that's headed toward Earth right now. That one got named over on Twitter. Just follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament to find out what filaments are called. This one up here is the David Dubine filament. This one down here is the Reed Timmer. This one, I forget the name, some British musician or something. And then we've actually named this one up here. That is now the Russell Brand filament. So, yeah, follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament. That's the El Teide Spain hydrogen alpha imagery. Multiple filaments there that still don't have names, such as these large ones down in the southwestern limb. So plenty of stuff going on, folks. It is exciting times for space weather. We didn't just accidentally leverage ourselves here. By the way, I nearly majored in cosmology in the mid-1990s. I realized that there was a hole in cosmology, a hole associated with black holes and WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles, otherwise known as dark matter. No, the hole was in heliophysics, which is the hole we're filling. Now, don't take that the wrong way. So yeah, lots of filaments. Some of them already have names. Again, follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament over on Twitter. Filaments, filaments, filaments. Let's take a look at them through the SDO 193 angstroms wavelength. Dag! It shows coronal holes. It shows the extended corona. It shows active regions. It shows plasma filaments. And before we get to bonus features, here are the last couple of hours from the GOES 16. Crown prominence going on up in the northern hemisphere there. And also a very high likelihood of solar flares, including M or X class events. We'll keep you posted. Yowzers. Exciting times. Again, if you want to name filaments after living people, do it over on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Thanks to our new followers over there. Congratulations on realizing the channel, the website, the anything. Congratulations on seeing anything on the internet. Here come bonus features. Satellite's community dashboard here, showing some minor charging hazards there in the Central Pacific, as low energy electrons show up and build up on the outside of spacecraft out there. Unlikely to cause any major communications breakdowns. The GOES electron flux here, just moving into warning levels there on the GOES 16, the GOES 18 here, almost at warning levels for the GOES electron flux. There's the 1-year chart to put it in context. And we're expecting this to crater very soon, as there are multiple space weather events to arrive. So NOAA's forecasting flatter levels there. Those green boxes are NOAA's forecast for the relativistic electrons. Let's show the layer where those are measured, the F layer of the ionosphere. Feel free to pause the video on that frame if you are not familiar with atmospheric temperatures, electromagnetic radiation penetration in atmospheric layers, and molecular concentrations. Here's the F layer in vibrational frequency. Things are looking normal. Things are not looking like doomsday. If things were looking like doomsday, this would be all jacked up, but it's not. It's looking quite normally. So there's absolutely nothing to fear when it comes to space. Folks, the sun's not going to kill you. The galaxy is not going to kill you. And there's a distinct possibility that stars are a lot more stable than a lot of people might even realize, even in the year 2023. So we won't cover that on today's daily space weather video, but we will cover the anomaly from the 30-day median in the ionosphere. Things have settled back down following those geomagnetic storm conditions, and it is chill up there. Once again, the ionosphere looking quite normal. Again, doomsday has been canceled. Cancel your doomsday plans, folks. Make hay while the sun shines, and it does. There's 1315 universal time ionogram, and there's 1315 universal time anomalygram. We also like to show total electron content, as it is another space weather feature. It's showing free electrons from about 12,500 miles down to your handset. In other words, it's the most likely place to see GPS errors. The total electron content. It is literally a count of electrons through the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt, the outer plasmasphere, the inner Van Allen belt, the inner plasmasphere, and the ionosphere. Those charged particles can cause signal refraction, and they do. Of course, they're concentrated around the equator at noontime. The total electron content here on a global scale looking fairly normal. We'll also show the total electron content for North America. This is the anomaly from the 10-day average. We are seeing some very high electron contents there over Mexico, central Mexico there, showing a very, very high signal. Actually, that's probably missing data there, but you can infer that that's probably a high signal. Once again, this is an electron count. This depicts anomaly from the 10-day average. And we will close out with the latest high-res solar imagery. So there's the intensity gram. We show the refresh so you know you're seeing the most recent data. And there's a beta gamma class sunspot for you. It is actually beta gamma delta class. So a perfect example of deltas here. See these trailing umbrae? Those are of opposite polarity. Those are North Pole umbrae trailing these large South Pole umbrae. That is what we call deltas. Those make that sunspot more likely to flare. And also, its increasing proximity to the northwestern limb makes it more likely to flare. Also, this sunspot group is nothing to shake a stick at. That sunspot group walks quietly and carries a big stick. It is also beta gamma delta class. And of course, it has been quite active in flaring in the past couple of days. This group down here is not too shabby either. Also beta gamma delta class. Now that might actually be two sunspot groups there. You could make the argument that that leading group is a separate sunspot, which would really only be an alpha class sunspot, it looks like. But that trailing sunspot there is beta gamma delta class. Anyway, here's the full disk before we get to our meteorology segment. That is what's going on. That is what 200 plus sunspots look like. And actually, you know, those sunspots have degraded a little bit in the past 24 hours. Anyway, we're looking at sea surface temperature anomalies and ocean currents. So we've got some quite anomalously cold water here, where Hurricane Lee passed by. The water up there, 7.6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal for this time of year. However, the North Atlantic is dominated by warm water. Also, you can see the Gulf Stream here, happily making it all the way to keep Iceland and Scotland and Ireland from freezing. The Gulf Stream here still making it to Europe. Still making the possibility for a year without a summer next year just about 0%, folks. Anyway, we'll show the whole planet's sea surface temperature anomalies, as we prefer to be complete with our coverage. There is the Atlantic. Of course, the southern Atlantic, they're coming out of winter, but it is anomalously cold. Here's the Arctic Ocean. How about the Indian Ocean? There you go. Again, it's depicting sea surface temperature anomaly in color, and the animation is ocean currents. There's the Southern Ocean, featuring a mixture of warm and cold water. The turbulent Southern Ocean. And last but not least, the world's largest body of water. Practically 1/3 of the planet. The Pacific Ocean. Great view of that equatorial Pacific current. Anomalously warm water there, making its way halfway around the world. 1/3 of the way around the world, I guess I should say. Anomalously cold in the southern hemisphere and anomalously warm in the north. So that's what's going on with sea surface temperatures and ocean currents. Let's briefly show the planet's air masses. There are the surface winds of the east. Here are the jet streams of the east. Jet streams of the central world. Surface winds of the central world. Surface winds of the Americas. And there are the jet streams. Cold air being injected deep into the southern U.S. there, all the way from Lake Michigan to Florida, and indeed all the way down beyond Cuba. Some anomalously cold temperatures there are likely. Next, let's follow this low that's been making the news headlines, as some massive precipitation is coming to the mid-Atlantic states. It's only about 1,000 hectopascals right now for the pressure. But as the weekend progresses, it's going to smash right into North Carolina and then make its way right up the Chesapeake. This is the Euro forecast. We'll advance this to about 3 days, where it is still likely to be accurate. This is where it is expected to be on Monday, broken up into nothing. So it'll be gone by then. The GFS forecast, let's bring this back 1 day. So there's Sunday around 10 o'clock in the morning, so that thing is going to dissipate rapidly as it makes landfall. We got all kinds of tropical warnings there. The Euro forecast puts it farther to the west. GFS forecast a little weaker and a little bit farther to the southeast. That is Sunday morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, or 1400 Universal Time. Euro forecast, and there's the GFS forecast. That depicts pressure and also winds. So here is clouds and fog. I would note all those low clouds over the southeastern Pacific there. Look at the low clouds. Huge banks of low clouds there. Dreary skies over a very uninhabited part of the planet. And let's take a look at this low. It is pretty strong. So that's going to move a little bit to the west in the coming days, bringing massive precipitation. Here's your weather.gov map, and you can see tropical storm warnings there along the east coast of the U.S. Storm surge warnings over portions of it, so make sure you heed those. If your location is lit, head to weather.gov and click your location. Those are way too many counties for us to cover. Flood watches there in places like Virginia, North Carolina, Delaware, and New Jersey. Weather.gov. Here comes some forecasts. Here's your GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. As snow falls in portions of the western U.S., the northern Rockies. Next, total accumulated precipitation in inches. The same model, the GFS 72-hour. And look at some of the rain totals there, approaching 6 inches in some of those East Coast regions. At least 5+ inches in large portions of the East Coast. Even Pennsylvania expecting over 4 inches of rain around places like Philadelphia. Also some major flooding there coming to the Dakotas. 72-hour GFS total accumulated precipitation forecast in inches. Next, our temperature anomaly forecast. Same model, GFS 72-hour. Keep in mind the temperature anomalies are shown here in degrees Celsius. Last but not least, total accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. Mainly Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho there. Seeing some snow continuing to fall. Some places there expecting, looks like about a foot of snow in some isolated areas there in northern Wyoming. So there are some forecasts for you. Here comes your lightning mapper. We have seen some lightning in the center of the country. I think we have some terrestrial strikes going on right now. Do we have current thunderstorms? Indeed we do. They have subsided a little bit since we did show prep. Oh wait, we've got some strikes rolling in here. So Kansas, that looks like a severe thunderstorm there, folks. That could be accompanied by damaging wind and hail. And it is moving to the east. Let's blast through the rest of this video. We don't want it to be too long. If you want to support the channel, become a member of the Smash Team. Smashomash.com/Smash Team. We created our own subscription services site because Patreon couldn't hold us. If you want to put me in a box, I got news for you. You'll need a bigger box. So if you want additional content, visit our links, hit up our massive web ring that we've created for the benefit of people like you. Smashomash.com/Smash Team if you want to support the channel. These videos are brought to you in part by the Gold and Silver Smash Team level members. There's also a bronze level membership. We send out email alerts and so forth. Here come the remainder of the portions of this video. U.S. Doppler radar. Let's briefly zoom out to show the full 50-state view. And we'll be focusing on the lower 48 view. There you go. Here is, once again, clouds and fog. That's 3.9 micrometer infrared radiation, since half of the country is dark. There you go. And here's the water vapor map. And this system is actually getting an impulse from the south. So there's a jet stream curve happening right there, and you can see this dry mass of air giving it a push to the north, and there is clear sailing to its north. So a little bit of wind shear up here is going to break it apart, but it's mainly the landfall that's going to affect things. Here's your recap. Heavy storms here about to sweep across Missouri and Arkansas. Also some strong storms there in Illinois. Here is clouds and fog. And there is water vapor. Fun fact, you can forecast your weather. Yeah, it's not that hard if you understand atmospheric physics. You can do it. You can even forecast your space weather. We empower our viewers to do so. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. Congratulations on realizing it exists. I'm out. And while I'm gone, I'll have been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash. I'm signing off, and may that solar wind be at your back.